Okay, so here is part of the formula sheet that you guys are going to get.
Oh, we get this?
Yep. This is down here.
And that has every formula?
Not every formula. You're going to have to know, like, some geometric stuff and the arithmetic, but I mean, it's a lot of it, so you don't have to memorize everything. You're not getting the stuff from chapter 9 that we just did like 5 minutes ago. You guys need to have that in your brains. But you will get the unit circle, you'll get the sum and difference identities, law of sines, law of cosines, probably Heron's formula, the area formula, the summation stuff, and the trig identities. So it's a lot of information that you will be handed. So it'll be on everybody's desk. You can have it to use. You can use that scrap paper, whatever. But I want to go over, there's going to be 33 questions on the senior final. Probably 36 to 40 on the underclassmen. You guys will be working on, when the seniors aren't here, you guys will be working on two extra lessons. And then when you get back from Memorial Day weekend, you guys are off Monday, then Tuesday is beginning of review. So there's no more teaching days after Memorial Day weekend. It's just review and tests. I'm not sure why this is blurry. But that's okay, because I'll just rewrite the questions. All right, let's go through some of these. So get your pencils ready. Let's write some stuff down. I'm going to do 40 for this first page. I'm going to do 40, 42, 53. I have a bunch I wanted to do. 53, 71, 72, 78, and 79. All right, this is all from chapter 5, your guys' favorite section of the trig stuff. Remember that? Super fun. All right, so let's look at 40. Again, you're going to be given the unit circle and stuff like that. So we look at 40. It says tangent of x plus 1 equals 0, correct? All right, what are we supposed to do here? We're trying to solve. We're trying to get the tangent of x where? All by itself. So I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides, and I get tangent x equals -1. What does that tell me? Anybody remember? If we're talking about an ordered pair on the unit circle, I have an x and I have a y. What is the x value? Cosine. What is the y value? Sine. What is tangent? Y over x. Sine over cosine, however you want to look at it. So you're going to have your unit circle. So you're going to have to go to your unit circle and say, okay, which ordered pairs give me, when I take the y value and put it over the x, which ordered pair gives me -1 as my answer? So using which ordered pair, guys, is going to give you 1 when you put the y over the x? What's the only combination that could be? Square root of 2 over 2. That's the only ordered pair that when you put the y value over the x value, you're going to get that. So which ordered pairs, when I put y over x, gives me -1? Which would that be?
Square root over 2 and negative square root over 2.
But so where? Where on the unit circle? 7 pi over 4 and 3 pi over 4. So x would be 7 pi over 4 and 3 pi over 4. On the answer key that we did last year, we worked these problems out a little different. If you note it, I think it only has 3 pi over 4 as the answer, but there's actually 2 answers here. It's 3 pi over 4, and what is connected to 3 pi over 4? 7 pi over 4. All right, we did it last year where we put at the end of the answers plus 2k pi, which means you add 180, which would give you that other answer. So it is both of those answers. So when you're solving, you have to remember you're isolating the trig function, and then you're finding where on the unit circle it gives you that value. You remember that? Let's look at 42. All right, 42. It says 4 cosine x equals 1 plus 2 cosine x, correct? Okay. We want our trig functions to be all on the same side, right? So are you guys okay with me subtracting 2 cosine x's from both sides? Okay. So 4 minus 2 gives me 2 cosine x equals 1. So now what?
Divide by 2.
Divide both sides by 2. So I'm looking on the unit circle where the cosine values are positive 1/2. What does cosine mean? X. I'm looking for X values. So where on your unit circle, guys, are the X values positive 1/2? Pi over 3 and 5 pi over 3. Perfect. So X equals here pi over 3 and 5 pi over 3. This is coming back to us a little bit. I know this wasn't the greatest thing you ever did in your entire life, but it's not horrible. All right, the rest of those in that section are basically the same thing. Again, I will post all of these answers so you guys can check, and you can, on the review day, come in and ask questions. But you're isolating the trig function and then solving. If I look at, let's look at 53. I'm picking different ones that are a little different, so just make sure we hit on things. 53 says cosine squared x plus sine x equals 1. All right, this one's a little different. Why is this one different? There's a squared. Good. What's another reason it's a little different? They're different trig functions, okay? So when you have two trig functions, one of them is squared, you think, ooh, this is probably a quadratic, so I'm going to have to try and factor it. So cosine squared x plus sine x, move the 1 over, so minus 1 equals 0. Agreed? Now, when we had these and the trig functions were the same, you just factor like normal. When the trig functions are not the same, you try to change to the middle function. You will have your trig identities in front of you. I don't have them on this slide, but I'm sure when you guys worked this out so diligently over the past 6 days, you had your identities right in front of you, right? Mm-hmm. Right. Some of you just opened it up and were like, whoa, there's so many problems. What is cosine the same as? What can I replace cosine with? Good. 1 minus sine squared. Again, that will be on your trig sheet, so you can see that. So 1 minus sine squared is the same as cosine. You always want to change to the middle function that is to the first power. And now we just solve like normal, guys. What can I combine here? I have a positive 1 and a negative 1. What happens?
0.
They cancel. So I'm left with negative sine squared x plus the sine of x equals 0. It's a bunch of people in A period get here and then go, now what? Factor, guys, what do they have in common? They both have a sign. Take out a negative one. So I'm going to take out negative sine x. That leaves me with sine x minus 1. You guys agree? What do I do with each piece? I set it equal to 0. How do I solve this? What's one thing I need to do here on this?
Add 1.
Okay, we're going to add 1 over here. So I have sine x equals 1. What do I do on the left-hand side? Divide by negative 1. So all that does is give me, I'm looking where sine of x equals 0. What is sine? What value is sine? Y. Y value. And y value. So you're going to have 2 different answers here. Sometimes some of these questions might give you 4 different answers, whether it's plus or minus or something. Excuse me, but you're looking on the unit circle where x is 0. Where your y value is 0 and where your y value is 1. So what would it be? Where is y 0? At pi. Okay. Is it 0 anywhere else? At 0. What's another way I could write 0? Could also be 2 pi, right? Make sure, because it's at the same spot, so make sure you see that if it's an answer choice. And then where on my unit circle is the y value positive 1?
2 pi.
Y value positive 1. Pi over 2. So pi over 2. Those would be your 3 answers. So if you have a quadratic, guys, factor it like normal. If you want to replace the trig function with just an x, that's fine. And then put the trig function back in with your answer when you go to actually work it out. That make sense? Mm-hmm. Let's do 55. I know I didn't write that down, but I just see I want to do that one. So 55. Let's see why 55 is a little different. It says 2 sine 2x equals the square root of 2. All right? Oops, I forgot next. Do you guys see this is my trig function here? How's that a little different from the other ones we just did?
There's a number.
There's a number. There's one extra thing we have to do with these multiple angle problems. I want to get sine by itself, so I'm going to divide both sides by 2. You guys agree? So I have the sine of 2x equals the square root of 2 over 2. All right? I keep forgetting to write the x. Sine is what value? Y. So on your unit circle, look for the y value. Where are the y values? Positive square root of 2 over 2. Tell me where they are. Positive square root of 2 over 2.
On the y value? 3 pi over 4.
3 pi over 4 and pi over 4? Okay. Guys, does this say x equals?
2x.
It's 2x. This is where you have to do that extra little work. This is 2x equals that. So to get x by itself, you would have to divide both sides by 2, correct? Keep, change, flip, which is the same as multiplying by 1/2. So here you get 3 pi over 8. And here you're going to multiply by 1/2, I'm sorry, and you get pi over 8. You only have to do that when you have a number either stuck in front of, like multiplying by the x, or if it was x divided by 4 or something. If it said x divided by, then you would multiply your answer by that number. That's called our multiple angle problems. We got to remember that. Okay, we wanted to do up here, what did I say? 71 and 72? All right, so 71 says sine of 130 times the cosine of 50 plus cosine 130 times the sine of 50. All right, the directions say write the expression as the sine, cosine, or tangent of an angle. This is when you guys are going to take your formulas, your sine, cosine, tangent, the adding, the subtracting, a plus b, a minus b, and you're going to figure out which one they're talking about and then work backwards. Which formula of your sum of difference identities goes sine, cosine plus cosine, sine? Is it sine, cosine, or tangent? It's the sine. And what are you doing, Becky, with the two angles? Are you adding them or subtracting them? So this would be 130 plus 50. So to write this as one single trig function, this formula is the same thing as saying the sine of 180. All right, that's writing it as one single trig function. If they ask you to give the exact value, well, sine is what? What value is sine? Y. So what is the y value, guys, at 180? It is. And that would be your answer. If they just want you to write it as a singular value, it's just sine 180. If they want you to actually evaluate it and give an answer, then it would be pi. So if I look at 72, 72 says cosine 45, cosine 120 minus sine 45, sine 120, right? All right, what formula on your sum of difference identities says cosine, cosine minus sine, sine? Cosine, cosine minus sine, sine. Cosine of A plus B. Notice, the sign in the middle for cosines are opposites. So this, if I were to write this as one function, it'd be cosine of 45 plus 120. What's 45 and 120?
165.
Cosine of 165. Is 165 on your unit circle? Yes or no? Is 165 on the unit circle?
Yes.
Yes. Cosine is what value? X value. So what's the X value at 165? Negative square root of 3 over 2. You guys agree? I'm not looking. You guys agree? Yeah? All right, for the interest of time, I'm going to do 79. Like, not 78 and 79. But if you have a question like 79, 79 says they want to find the cosine of u plus v. And they tell you that the sine of u is 4 over 5. and the cosine of v is negative 7 over 25. Do you guys remember how to do this? These angles aren't on the unit circle. This is where we have to think, okay, wait. You're not going to turn it into a degree. We have to think about where this is. Sine is what over what? Y over r, x over r. Think about it. You have a triangle. Here's my x, here's my y, here's my r. So sine is going to be y over r. So I need my x value, my y value, and my r value. They already gave me two of them. What two do I know? So I know that y is 4 and r is 5. You know that r is always, 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 always what kind of a number? Positive. How do I find out what x is? Yep. So I don't know what x is. Plus 4 squared equals 5 squared. X squared plus 16 equals 25. X squared equals 25 minus 16 is 9. So what does x equal? 3. Now the reason we're doing this, guys, is because we have to plug these into a formula. So I need to know what the sine value is. Sine of u is y over r. So sine of u is 4 over 5. Cosine of u is going to be x over r, which is 3 over 5, right? So when I go over to triangle V, notice there's a minus sign, so we got to think about this for a second. What is cosine? What over what? It's x over r. So I have x value, y value, and r value. X is 7, and r is 25. Where does the negative sign go? With which? Why with the 7? Because r is always good. R is always positive. So now to find the y, same thing we just did. X squared plus y squared equals r squared. So you have negative 7 squared plus y squared equals 25 squared, right? So 49 plus y squared equals what, 625? Minus 49. Y squared equals, what's 625 minus?
$576.
576. What's the square root of 576? 24. So what is the sine of V? 24 over 25. Good. And then what's the cosine of V? It was negative 7 over 25. So this is all I need now, because now I'm going to use those sum and difference. I want the cosine of UV. So the formula is for cosine of U plus V. What's the formula? What does it say? Cosine, cosine minus sine, sine? Right? Cosine U, cosine V minus sine U, sine V. So now we're just plugging in. What is the cosine of U? 3 over 5. What is the cosine of V? Negative 7 over 25. Becky, did I write that formula right? And then the sine of U is 4 over 5, right? And then the sine of V, 24 over 25. So what's 3 times negative 7? Negative 21. And what's 5 times 25? 125, right? Minus, what's 24 times 4? 96. Over 5 times 25 is 125. And then we combine. Negative 21 minus 96 gives me negative 117 over 125. When we did these problems, what always happened at this step with our denominators? They were going to be the same. So if they weren't, then you did something wrong. So all you have to do is take the two trig ratios that they gave you, and you just have to make sure that you make 2 triangles, and you just think x, y, and r in one, x, y, and r in the other. Make sure you pay attention to your negative signs. All right, again, this is all from chapter 5. So if there's some stuff in here that you're like, oh, I just don't remember this, go back to chapter 5 stuff. Chapter 5 test review videos, Chapter 5 reviews, that sort of a thing. You guys with me? Okay. All right, scooting along. I'm going to do a couple of these. This goes back to our law of sines, law of cosines, Heron's formula, that sort of thing. Let's do number two. Number 2. What is number 2? A is 38 degrees. B is 58 degrees, right? And A is 12. Now, most questions will say using the law of sines or using the law of cosines, and you should be able to figure out which one to use. If they give you all 3 sides, you have to use law of cosines. But the first thing you should do, guys, Raul, what's the first thing I should do if I don't have a picture? Draw one, all right? That's very helpful. So A, B, and C, remember, capital letters are your angles, lowercase letter are your sides. So angle A is 38. Angle B is 58. Remember, you guys have multiple choice answers. So when it says solve the triangle, they might ask you for a couple different things, or they might just say solve for angle whatever, solve for side whatever. But how can I figure out what angle C is?
You add them up.
I'm going to add up 58 and 38. So what's 58 plus 38? 96. So I'm going to say 180 minus 96 and get what?
84.
84. So angle C is 84 degrees. That might be the only thing that they ask you for. Probably not, but maybe. But now if you're looking for side lengths, what did they tell me at the beginning? A is 12. To use the law of sines, guys, you have to have an angle measure and its corresponding side length. Do we have that? Yes. So I'm going to do one of the sides, and you guys can figure out the other one, and I'll post the answers. Which side do you want to find? Doesn't matter. Okay, let's find C. So I'm going to say sine of 38 over 12. Can I put 12 on top and the sine of 38 on the bottom?
Yeah.
Yes, doesn't matter. As long as you keep angles with angles and sides with sides. So if we're going to find side C, then I'm going to say sine of 84 over C. And then how do we solve this? We cross multiply. So 12 times the sine of 84 equals C times the sine of 38, right? Divide both sides by the sine of 38. So C equals, well, in our calculator, you hit 12 sine 84 divided by sine 38. And I get 19.38. So whatever they say to round to, you guys round. But remember, multiple choice. Multiple choice. There will not be 2 answers. That's like one's 19.38, one's 19.4. It's not going to be like that. You'll be able to choose. But then to find the other side, you do the same thing. Set at the proportion. Sine of an angle over its corresponding side equals sine of the angle over its corresponding side. Yeah.
It'll tell us what.
Like I said, it's not going to be like, your answer won't be 19.38 and then 19.41. Those won't be, I'm not seeing if you guys know how to round. I'm seeing if you guys know how to use the law of sines. So just pick pick which is close. What else do I want to do? Do you guys remember how to find, like, say I was trying to work something out and I found sine of C and it came out to like 0.2347. Is that the angle measure? That's the inverse. Good. How would you do that in your calculator? Sine -1. You hit second sine, and then you put in the 0.23, and then that gives you the angle. We're going to do that in a second. I just wanted to make sure you guys remember. Look at, let's do 22. 22. Again, I will post all the answers. I just want to make sure I hit on a bunch of different things. 22. I'm going to draw it because I have A, B, and C. They gave me side A was 6.2. Side B is 6.4. And side C is 2.1. Is that what that says? What happens if I work something out like this in my calculator and my calculator says error? What does that mean? Not that you did it wrong. Does a triangle exist? No. All right, so in this case, guys, obviously you have to use the law of cosines. The reason why is I do not have an angle measure and its corresponding side. Do you remember what is important when you're using the law of cosines? What do you have to find first?
The biggest one.
Why? Yep. You have to find the biggest angle. How do you know which one's the biggest angle? It's across from the longest side. Again, you're going to be given the law of cosines. I know it, so I'm going to write it down. This is going to be b squared equals a squared plus c squared minus 2ac times the cosine, whoops, not the cosine of b. So I know that b is 6.4. So I have 6.4 squared equals a is 6.2 squared plus c is 2.1 squared minus 2 times a is 6.4 times c is 2.1 times the cosine of b. Again, you're going to be given that formula. So now here's a bunch of calculator stuff. Work with me, make sure I do it right because I'm doing it fast. 6.4 squared, 40.96 equals, I'm going to do 6.2 squared plus 2.1 squared. And I get 42.85 minus, what's 2 times 6.4 times 2.1? 26.88, and then times the cosine of b. Here's where you guys, some of you make a mistake. You do this right here. Can you subtract those two numbers?
No.
Why not?
Because that's what cosine.
Because it's attached to that cosine of b. Good. So I'm going to have to subtract here 42.85, 42.85, and I come out with 40.96 minus 42.85. Negative 1.89 equals negative 26.88 times the cosine of b. You guys with me? Okay, so now I'm going to divide both sides by what? Negative 26.88. Don't freak out because you guys are getting negative numbers and stuff like that. So you have the cosine of b equals, what's negative 1.89 divided by negative 26.88? It is positive, but point
Like a 0.
0.70312. Is that the angle measure?
No.
No, you hit second cosine, that little negative one comes up, and then second answer. And you get that b equals 85.97 degrees. Now, again, they'll tell you what's around to. They'll tell you what's around to, but I got 85.97 degrees. So now that I know what angle B is, I know that angle B is 85.97, sorry. 85.97. Do I have a side length and its corresponding angle measure? Yes. So I can now use what to find the other stuff? The law of sines. I can use that proportion. Does that make sense? You guys okay? Let's look at 11. I want to do 11 and 27. These are quick. 11 says A is 33 degrees. B, side B is 7, and side C is 10. And they're asking you to find the area. They're telling you that they gave you two sides and the included angle. That means you have area equals side A times side B times the sine of angle C divided by 2. When they're asking for the area and they give you two sides and the angle in between. All right, so the area of a triangle, when they give you an angle and the included angle in two sides, you're going to take the two sides, so 7 times 10 times the sine of 33 and divide it by 2, or 1/2 times. Now, again, it's important, guys, that you put this in your calculator correct. You need to tell your calculator to make sure you multiply everything on top and then divide by 2. If you don't do it in 2 steps, or if you don't use parentheses, then it's going to divide the sine of the angle by 2. You don't want to do that. So did you guys come out with 19.06-ish? Okay, good. And then to do herons, again, I'm going to give you herons. Herons is when they give you the 3 sides. So here they tell you that A is 3, B is 6. Oh, my letters are terrible. A is 3, B is 6, and C is 8. Remember, you have to find two things first with Heron's. The first, again, you'll have the formula. The first thing you need to find is S. That's when we add the three sides, 3 plus 6 plus 8, divide by 2. So 3 plus 6, 9 plus 8 is 17 divided by 2, right? 8.5. So your S value is 8.5. So then to apply the formula, you take S, it's 8.5. And then each side, you subtract 8.5 minus 3, 8.5 minus 6, and 8.5 minus 8. Got to have that S value. And then you can do all of that in your calculator. Again, multiple choice, so you don't have to show all of your work. You can just do it in your calculator, but I'm going to work this out like this. So I have 8.5 times 5.5. 8.5 minus 6 gives me 2.5, and then 8.5 minus 8 gives me 0.5, right? So now in your calculators, square root of 8.5 times 5.5 times 2.5 times 0.5. And you come out with about 7.64. You guys with me? All right, that's all of your chapter 6 stuff. Law of sines, law of cosines, Heron's formula, that sort of thing. That was 6162. Moving on, and I'll pick this up tomorrow, but moving on with vectors. Vectors, guys, remember, was super easy, but it was a little different from anything that we've been used to. Let's do 38, and then I'll stop. 38 for vectors. They told me that vector U, remember vectors has like the arrows on the sides, is 1, -8. And vector V is 3, -2. To find the dot product, it's first times first plus second times second. When we did multiplication, anything like that. Guys, you always want to keep first with first, second with second. So the first thing they asked for here is U plus V. Then we're going to do U minus V. Then we're going to do 3 times U. And then 2V plus 5U. This is just our adding and subtracting of our vectors and our scalar multiplication. I'll pick up with the other stuff tomorrow. But if I'm going to add U plus V, right? So you have vector U is 1, -8 plus vector V is 3, -2. The way that we do this, guys, I said this 1,000 times when we do this, is first with first. So 1 plus 3 is how much? 4. -8 plus -2 is -10. That's it. That simple. If you have U minus V, it's the same thing as if you were adding and subtracting with parentheses. You have to make sure that you distribute that negative sign. You can do it however you would like. I personally like to distribute it right now so I don't have to think about it. I have 1 and -8, and then I'm going to say plus, and I'm going to distribute that negative sign. So it's -3 and +2. And now when we combine, you have first and first. What's 1 plus -3? -2. Then you have -8 plus 2 gives me, hi, -6. Sure. 2 more. Now I'm going to have 3 times U. Well, my U vector is 1, -8. Whoops. I forgot to write the 1. So you are literally just distributing that 3. What's 3 times 1? 3. 3 times -8? -24. That's it. For this one here, it's 2 times vector V. What is V? 3, -2. Plus 5 times vector U, which is 1, -8. So just say it again.
Isn't it -3, +2? Because you flipped it earlier to positive.
I flipped it here because we were subtracting.
Oh.
I distributed the negative. So distribute the 2. 2 times 3 and then 2 times -2. So it's 6, -4. plus distribute 5 comma negative 40. Once you do your distribution, then we combine. 6 plus 5 is 11. Negative 4 plus negative 40 is negative 44. You guys with me? All right, I'm going to do another one. Do you guys remember how to find, if we look at 49? 49 gives me my initial point is negative 8, 3. And my terminal point is 1, negative 5. Do you remember how to find the vector? Terminal minus initial. Very important. So you have 1, negative 5 minus negative 8, 3. Terminal point minus initial. When we make a vector, we have our little sides here. So I have 1 minus a negative 8 gives me 1, what? Plus 8, which is 9. Then negative 5 minus 3 gives me negative 8. And that would be your vector. All right, I'll pick up with 6.4 dot products tomorrow. And then we'll move on to our matrices and stuff like that. And I'll finish up with 8 and 9 on Thursday.